AI and the personalized marketing, AI playing a big role in content creation, and then trying to reach the specific consumer that the business is after. Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of Unlocking the AI Advantage podcast. This is your host, Ramesh Danta. I hope you've been enjoying the previous episodes. And today we're going to talk about personalized marketing and AI's role in it, and especially with the modern consumer consuming lots of content from different angles, and AI playing a big role in content creation, and then trying to reach the specific consumer that the business is after. So AI and the personalized marketing. Thank you very much for joining. And as usual, so we bring great guests to have this conversation instead of you listening to me throughout the 1 hour. And today we have a great guest, founder of LightRoute Ventures, Kavita Tipnis-Rasal. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. So a little bit about me. So I'm a technology leader with like 16 years of experience in enterprise SaaS. And I've led teams at startups and at big companies. Prior to LightRoute Ventures, and I'll tell in a minute what LightRoute Ventures does. But prior to LightRoute Ventures, I was at the co-founder and CTO of a marketing tech startup called Perks.ai, where we kind of piloted a product in the loyalty and rewards management space using generative AI. Before that, I was at a CDP company called Impurity, managed product engineering teams there, and I had a long stint at Workday prior to that. So why LightRoute? So LightRoute Ventures started as a company or a venture studio for AI applications, where a lot of these businesses that we were talking to, or even startup founders, came us with ideas, said that, hey, we needed expertise to bring this to market in a very controlled environment. So me and my team, we kind of build these AI prototypes for any application, any use case. And our current client is a GovTech startup that is trying to bring AI to the market, right? Or an AI application to the market. So that's how it all started. My journey with marketing was I run a company called Marketing Maven AI, which helps small businesses and nonprofits in social media marketing automation. So it's an automated way of doing social media marketing. Glad to be on the webinar and look forward to having a great conversation.
Thank you very much, Kavita. With that kind of a background, so it's going to be a pretty exciting conversation today. So let's get started. The personalized marketing has always been there, right? So, and from the days I remember when the first email came to me saying, "Dear Ramesh Danta," instead of, "Hey, how are you?" So the personalized marketing started. But we know it's evolved much beyond that. So to set the stage, what is in terms of what is the current state of personalized marketing, and what is AI's role in taking personalized marketing further?
No, great question. And I think, let me ask you this. How many times have you checked LinkedIn already before jumping on the call?
No,
Right?
today I was checking to get you to there. So I already checked 5 times today. Yes.
5 times, right? And there you go. I think LinkedIn has done a great job in the last couple of years in personalized marketing, I think, for professional people like us, right? It's like, okay, they know what kind of content we are looking for. They really know what are we trying to get from a platform like LinkedIn, right? But the reality is we are living in an attention economy, right? So when we were doing Marketing Maven AI, we kind of research said like, hey, the average attention span for any consumer is 10 seconds or less. So you literally only have 10 seconds to grab attention of your audience, right? Whether it's on social media or whether it's email or whether it's live audience, right? So that's kind of what your window is when you're working with personalized marketing. And consumers, if you notice, I think you're becoming increasingly wary if people start to know more information about you. Yes, everything is public, but then personalized recommendations after a certain level feel very privacy invading. So there's a delicate balance I feel that these businesses have to manage in this world of hyper personalization. And with AI, what is happening is Yes, the initial wave of ChatGPT and generative AI, around about 2021, 2022, it was all brand new. There were fewer people using it. But fast forward 2 years, most companies are using that for content generation.
Yeah.
So now businesses have a challenge of like, okay, my content looks similar to this other brand or my competitor's content. How do I make it personalized? So that's that delicate balance of like, okay, how do you drive personalization without um, leaving the consumer tuned out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so in terms of couple of things that you mentioned with respect to how to implement, I would like to really go down much further. But if for example, the few things that you mentioned, recommendations, okay, so Amazon came out with recommendations, Netflix came out with recommendations. I mean, I remember, I don't know exact, maybe 5 6 years, but that you could say that's a pre-chat GPT, pre this the hyper growth curve of AI. So does it mean that Amazon and Netflix, companies who are much ahead in this, LinkedIn, even example, right? Were they using some AI ML generated, I mean, with the techniques to implement personalized marketing, right? Or AI is adding something more to it?
great question. And I think here it's important to distinguish like AI and ML have been around the block for a long, long, long time,
Yeah.
right? And the companies that you mentioned, Amazon or Netflix, even, let's say Instagram or DoorDash, these applications that we consumers use have
Yeah.
always had the bedrock of that stronger machine learning foundation. So these fundamentals and principles already existed. And in fact, marketing is one of the functions in a business that have been at the forefront of using what we call nowadays as traditional machine learning applications, right? Where you get hyper personalized recommendations, users are able to save their profile information, and it was much more advanced already until generative AI came along. What I do believe is in generative AI kind of accelerated for marketing is okay, now we have reached a stage of, let's say, growth maturity curve for
Mhm.
businesses, but then
Mhm.
generative AI has accelerated that progress and that, so marketing teams have to think and pause and say, like, okay, how do we innovate? We were already innovating, we were already capitalizing on the value generated from our machine learning algorithms.
Mhm.
So how do we maximize, right? What's our return on ad spend? Are we still able to better convert? So those fundamentals for marketing, like metrics to measure, still remain the same. And then how can generative AI accelerate those metrics is the key question that I think what businesses need to understand. But it's not like it's fancy new technology that just came around and took it. It's marketing has been at the forefront of like using some of these technologies well in advance.
Yeah, got it. Actually, that's fair point. And then for any technology, companies, I mean, leading companies definitely think ahead, and they'll be implementing whatever is going to come in 5 years as a mass adoption. That's happening now. So far we have been talking about it from a business perspective. Hey, what is in it for the business? Better reach, that elusive customer, and the better conversion, and then automation and making it on. But let's look at it from a consumer perspective, right? So what has this personalized marketing done for the consumer? To some extent, I do like it, in the sense that when I go there, hey, there are recommendations that are made for me, right? So that reduces my time for search, smarter search, and those kinds of things. But there are times when said, oh, I was not on this platform, I was some other platform, and I was searching on that one. How come this particular application or platform knew what I was doing? So now get into the creep zone. So tell me, what is the consumer's mindset in adapting, or basically, about personalized marketing?
Definitely. I think over the past 2 decades, I would say, is personalized marketing, digital personalized marketing has blurred the lines between ads and really reaching out to the consumer, right? So it's
Okay.
really become an ads enabled search engine. Every search engine that you look after, Google's the big one, but even Meta, right? Or if you're using any of the Meta's apps, they're all ad based. Their biggest revenues are advertisements. So then, as a consumer, when you're absolutely right, we were already consumers were trending in that direction of like, wait a minute, I don't need to see ads that are not relevant. First of all, if I am reading a technical article or a business article, I do
Mhm.
not want advertisements that don't make sense to me, right? Um, and then similarly, if you're hiring an app to do a job, let's say if you're ordering food from DoorDash, you
Yeah.
don't want to see a irrelevant ad. I think Apple's done a good job of the app tracking transparency. Yes, there are pros and cons, but I think Apple's kind of put that framework for consumers, um, and also consumers to believe in the privacy for whoever's putting out the apps, right? So, as a consumer, when I am on a website doing a job, I really want to get my things done these days, right? Or if I'm loading an app, I really want to, finish whatever task I want to do on that app seamlessly. Or if I'm doing search, is I am trying to look for something and I only need that thing. That's what, as a consumer, I'm like expecting quick answers. I'm expecting like relevant recommendations all the
Mhm.
time. Don't feed me too much information. I don't need it. Consumers are getting increasingly savvy in terms of like digital technologies. Everybody knows how to use most of the major apps, right? So, and for entertainment, then you go to Netflix and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and that's a different segment. There I am maybe much more lenient in seeing advertisements or seeing personalized recommendations. But yeah, sometimes a hyper recommendation or hyper personalization can creep a consumer out. I do not want to be tracked all the time.
So on that front, are there any tools for the consumer to uh, not to get tracked too much? I mean, we know any app or website we go now accept all cookies, and then I don't want to spend time figuring out which cookies I want to save. So my natural reaction is okay, either accept or reject, right? So I mean, there are benefits to these cookies and accepting or rejecting kind of thing. So beyond that, are there any tools available for the consumer to not to get tracked too much, or some hyper personalization, some information I don't want to share?
Um, I wish I had a better answer to that, but I think because I don't know, the recent news is Google's been backtracking some of the cookie deprecation policies that they were trying to put in place, right?
Hmm.
Um, so the beyond Apple's app tracking, but it's still the onus lies on the consumer to kind of say, hey, don't track me on XYZ app sites or websites. There are some newer browsers that are coming in the market, like DuckDuckGo or Brave,
Yeah.
that make it safe for browsing so that they are not tracked. They are putting forth that privacy is front and center. So there are ways of coming and happening that. Obviously, with the advent of AI chatbots and ChatGPT type of applications and Perplexity, there is no browser. There is that whole experience changes. You're
Yeah.
in a chat window. So we'll have to see how that pans out and does that fare well for consumer privacy. But there are limited tools today to other than saying disable all is not an option right now on Google Chrome. Like
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
yeah.
Correct. I mean, okay. So I that is what my belief is. I mean, that's what I have observed, in the sense there are some tools but not many tools, other than going to, as I said, DuckDuckGo, or so lots of me there's an extra effort that I need to put in for me not to be tracked, as opposed to making it easy, right? So as I mentioned, accept all cookies, the easiest thing for me to do. I reject all cookies, and then so whatever happens, and then later on I don't even have control of what's happening. But we'll see. So the next question is about content consumption, right? Still, we are in this space of AI and personalized marketing. So far we talked about how businesses can reach that customer and what are the kinds of things they're implementing. And then now again, looking at from a consumer perspective, this short form of videos, short reels, and all that stuff have taken over, right? So and then this is the millennial generation has taught us that this is the thing, and then now everywhere is a short reels. And then my observation, what we see again in the context of the personalized marketing, when I watch something for a brief period of time, the next kind of content is similar or something like, right. So so this content consumption of where a similar content I seem to be consuming because I liked something I watched, does it also fit into this personalized marketing realm?
That's a great question. And content consumption, yes, you're right that the videos and short form content are really in high demand. I don't see that changing over a period of time because that's how people are rushed, or people, want to kind of consume bite sized content for most part, whether it's
Mhm.
informational or whether it's, entertainment. And then there is a long form content in terms of blogs and in terms of email marketing. But personalized marketing, you're right. There's two aspects to it. One, personalized marketing is how do I make my consumer feel special or important, or that they have earned this special treat. And then the other aspect of it is like, okay, how do I make their experience more enjoyable, which is the recommendations piece, is what you're trying to say, is like, I see the same of the same content. So that's where I feel that link is sometimes missing. And then
Mhm.
some of the better platforms or products out there and brands do a good job of translating the first piece of like, okay, how do I make my consumer feel special, by giving also then the control of saying like, okay, I downvote a video, or I don't want to see videos like this, I don't want to see posts like this. So those are the features that some of the platforms are incorporating to kind of give more control to the consumer to enhance their personalized marketing experience. So then the
So
next
one thing I have done is like I like some other content, so I don't keep
yeah,
consuming the same content. Then the algorithm says, "Hey, this person seems to be liking some other content that it keeps feeding me." That's one trick I found out to get away from this content often.
totally right. Depending on who you're following on Instagram and TikTok, I think you will get the same eggshells video all the same time, right? So
Exactly,
there
same
is an
baby video.
active kind of part the consumers have to play on, like, okay, thumbs up. Believe it or not, it comes naturally to the Gen Z and generation, because they're so used to kind of doing thumbs up, thumbs down, which is probably harder for us. Yeah.
That is exactly right. That's right. And we learn so much from them. Why use AI to engage modern consumer, like finding their wants and needs? And why not use AI to create modern consumers like Apple did for iPhone and Apple PC? And similarly, others create customers with new ideas like Elon Musk's EV cars and using AI and memes, etc. So, anyway, and this is my take, and I would like to hear your take. First thing is, as a business, the one of the goals is to be profitable business, and then they're trying to reach that particular customer and then understand the needs and wants so they can deliver the products and services to them. So it is in the business interest to use whatever tool that is necessary to find their needs and wants, and then serve them. So that's the reason why the business are after they're using AI to do this. And of course, like Apple and then so Tesla's creating itself. So AI, I mean, that's happening all the time. So Kavita, what's your take on
And I think the context matters, right? In your use
yeah.
cases with Apple and Tesla, they're consumer tech businesses, right? Like, or consumer electronic goods businesses. But for a brand or a retail brand or an e-commerce brand, right? The only way to reach or through digital advertising. So how do you reach your customers? I think to Ramesh's point is like, okay, how do I get my consumers? Yes, I can build a stellar product, and then everybody asks, right? Hokas are doing the rounds in the running circle. Like, I would also want to know what is so special about the Hoka running shoes. But there is a great marketing team behind Hokas to that is promoting the brand on these multiple channels, which is acting as a forcing function for my friends and family to buy Hokas. And then I am hooked on to that of like, okay, why do you have that? So it depends, I think, on which side you're doing the business, probably. Of if you're in retail and e-commerce, uh, personalized marketing is here to say is like, because the number one question I think every business has to answer is, how do I reach my consumers in the most cost effective way as possible?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll give another example as the Stanley drinking cup, right? So again, so it blurs the lines between whether it is whether I need the Stanley drinking cup to do it, but the craze that has been there about Stanley drinking cup. I mean, again, I do not understand it, but it's out there. It's whether it's created with the marketing programs that has been implemented brilliantly by Stanley, the company that's behind this. It's whether they use AI to really do the personalized marketing, but it is there, Eugene. So that is what the organizations, the companies job is to have this set of customers who are crazy about their product and service. I mean, that's what I said. Okay, so now let's get into. So we have laid the foundation with respect to what is personalized marketing and what's happening in this space, and then how AI is being used by businesses, and then how consumers are also consuming some of this content, or so how they can, maybe um, uh, not get tracked, but there are not many tools there, from at least from my experience. Anyway, so but Kavita, let's get into the section of how to make this possible, right? So how organizations are implementing personalized marketing, what does it take for them to do that, right? So the thing that comes to people's mind right away is that data with respect to user segments, right? So segmenting the users. So what's your thought of what are the steps an organization is taking, will take, should take to implement AI driven personalized marketing?
Uh, so on that, I think there has to be a strategy. And like I said, the marketing teams were some of the innovative teams and are till date some of the innovative teams in some of these corporations, right? To add machine learning traditionally to their products, right? So I don't think data acquisition is the challenge. There is enough of data. There are already established, data platforms and customer data platforms ranging from Salesforce to Adobe to kind of, newer ones like Impurity and High Touch. That data acquisition is not the challenge, right? Making
Okay.
the data effective is the challenge in terms of personalized marketing. So that's where I feel there are multiple ways of doing it. You can run an innovation lab or an innovation project. I had the good fortune of listening to Laurel's head of data and analytics, and they have an AI lab that they partnered with NVIDIA
Hmm.
around how do they use their assets for generative AI to start creating these hyper personalized marketing messages and marketing campaigns. And they almost had like a lab to test out what kind of message resonates with the audience, right? With a particular set of consumers. And these are low, I say these are low cost, but let's say if you're a medium to large enterprise, you
Hmm.
already have some of the data infrastructure and platform set up. You're not spending time in data acquisition, you're not spending time and money both in kind of data processing and all of that. You have existing resources to do that.
So
Hooking
have you
off.
seen examples of like using, whether it's a Claude or a ChatGPT or some of the platforms which is a mass market where they have a lot of access to data already, and then whether they're using a custom GPT or something along those lines, can a small and medium organization implement personalized marketing?
Absolutely. I think this is a plug to the Marketing Maven AI, but that Marketing Maven AI was the custom GPT
I see.
creating that same use case where small businesses were finding it very hard to create Instagram campaigns and a content calendar on
Okay.
a regular basis. So a plain vanilla custom GPT with a super specialized prompt, which assumes a persona of like, okay, how would a social media marketer would do a job, and that custom gpt does wonders out of the box without any additional actions. So yes, and all of that I can tell you it costs you $20 a month to make it.
Hmm.
So if you're a small business or anything, you can just give it a shot and try it out to see and experiment what you get back. The default state with any kind of experiment is like, okay, what's your hypotheses and what do you get back? And I think the custom gpts and even Claude projects these days take you much farther with social media marketing at least, and even content, marketing, email personalized marketing. So you can have multiple of these GPTs, which fast forward now AI world, they are calling it agents, that can break down a task in steps and then execute that for your business. So
Okay,
yes,
so
it's
what's the roadmap? So for example, take Marketing Maven as an example of where a business wants to implement, like they're not into personalized marketing, now they want to get into it. So can you just walk us through the step-by-step approach? Let's take an example of, whatever example you want, a coffee shop or whatever example of, just walk through the steps that they will have to do.
definitely. So let's say if you have a coffee shop and you have a September special coming up,
Okay.
where you're just source some beans from, a local farm in Ecuador, and then you have to kind of, just get your existing customers or newer customers to kind of come and increase your foot traffic. That's the
Okay.
goal of your marketing campaign, right?
Okay.
First step is, let's say you can use plain old Chat GPT. The difference between just using a Chat GPT and a custom GPT is you have the ability to, I wouldn't call it fine tune, but give it specialized instructions, which is the prompt. So that's the key difference. So then let's say if you use a custom GPT like Marketing Maven AI,
Hmm.
where you can give it like, hey, I am a coffee business. This is my marketing campaign goal. This is what I'm trying to attract, at least 15 new customers. Help me draft an email campaign with X, Y, and Z. Because you, as the small business owner, you know what exactly you want from the
Hmm.
marketing campaign. Once you feed this prompt or question into custom GPT,
Okay.
you get a customized email, you get the relevant kind of advertisement links that you want to put in. Now, further, if you want to take it further, today Marketing Maven doesn't have actions, but there are actions that you can incorporate in a GPT, which can send out emails directly from the custom GPT to all of your consumers. So then that way you're not leaving your Chat GPT platform and your custom GPT. It's almost like having a digital marketing assistant or employee, right? So those are the steps I would say is like, okay, a custom GPT, you can feed in your prompt, low cost way of just starting it, $20, and you can start using any of these. There are multiple on the GPT store. Feed your use case to it and see the results, measure the results against what you would have done traditionally. And if you feel the results get you 70% there, give it a shot. Then you can measure your results from your marketing campaign, whether
So
you
isn't it amazing? We live in a world where $20 a month. So now you have a playground where, I mean, of course, you need to be a little bit savvy about, hey, what is a prompt that I have to give? And then, what prompt gives you. I mean, maybe you can get a consultant or like a Marketing Maven to guide us in the prompt, because it's prompt engineering is the one that really gets us the results. But, once you have it, you can feed into your email marketing machine and then just let it, go, and then compare, do A/B testing and compare with the results. And then that all thing happens at a minimal low cost. And the time wise also, it probably shrunk the time to run that campaign significantly.
100%, right? And then to add to your point about, it's amazing how prompt engineering, I would say, yes, it will take a while to get that normalized, but it's the best prompt engineers are the people who are doing the job. So if I'm a small business owner or if I'm an email marketer, I am at the leverage to give the system a better prompt. Nobody can do my job better than myself, right? So then a email marketer is the best person to feed in the prompt to a custom GPT, because they exactly know what they want from their email marketing campaign. They
That's
have
amazing.
the idea.
That's great, Kavita. You're making a point about, hey, the business owner is the best prompt engineer. There's no new prompt engineer that we need to bring into the equation here.
Totally, right? And I'm a tech person and I'm seeing these prompts, come through the back end sort of thing, right? But no, I think I am a big believer that you have a business owner and then you pair it up with AI tools. That's, the recipe for success.
It's great. Okay. That's one. So then the other question I have is there a like a is there a too much of a, is the concept of and trying to go too deep into trying to implement AI in a personalized marketing. For example, I mean, I myself as a consumer, I can talk about, not from a business. You go, all the chatbots that have come into place, right? And then at times they're cutesy, so okay, fine, they're giving me some information, but there are times when I think so they lost track of what I am really after. And I'll give you one example. So I was talking to a person over the weekend. They said when the flight got delayed, and there are people who went to the agent, the physical agent at the desk, try to get in the line to get themselves the updated flights or reroute them. And there are this gentleman, he said he actually used the chat agent, right, which is a very intelligent chat agent, and then to reroute much faster than the person who actually went to the physical desk, right? So here is a positive result of somebody using this chat agent and to get this rerouting done. So I mean, what are your thoughts about going one too much into one or the other?
Good questions. And there's always that, hey, when AI first came out, that, hey, there was this whole thing, it is going to replace jobs, right? And then the only way kind of to demystify that is when you start working with it. So fast forward a couple years now, 2.5, 3 years into the AI world, I take the pragmatic view is where the agents, and these are highly sophisticated technical systems that humans have programmed to kind of take rational decision making. They're modeling almost like human decision making, right? So but at some point, even as humans, you are have to defer to a SME or another person in the room, right? So the agents are modeling that behavior. So I do take the pragmatic of view of like it has to be the human plus AI. um, and mostly I think when you get a backdoor view of how Anthropic is building or how the AI players are building, like even OpenAI, they do have the pragmatic sense of like, okay, we break a task down in steps. We don't want these fully autonomous wild agents running out. We do want the human who is in control of the AI to kind of have that override switch also, and defer to a human in the best case possible, right? So those positive attributes always play out. Even at Marketing May, when we kind of said like, okay, we will never publish an automated advertisement without a human verifying it. And we
I see.
actually had a real experience, right? A local newspaper publisher basically called us out saying like, hey, you cannot publish AI generated media because that is harmful for the local newspapers. So we work with this local newspapers like, okay, tell us what makes sense to publish and what not, right? So then they needed more effective measures and controls to review the content and the asset that we publish out. And once they have reviewed it, they were okay to publish an AI generated text or AI generated video or audio into the open, right? So
Yeah.
I do believe the positive stories do need to start coming out more. The agents, they take you 70% there. There's never going to be 100% with anything. So then the 30% is where these SMEs or humans that have learned to work with the AI can come and help for that extra 30%.
Okay, so definitely, so I mean, that's what I've been reading, that the human augmented AI, right? So whether it's a human in the loop kind of thing, that's the one that everybody, lots of people are advocating, I should say, as opposed to complete AI automation, for many reasons, which is that, hey, there's always that hallucination, there's always that aspects where things can go wrong. And then nowadays I'm seeing more complaints about even ChatGPT's, Claude's doing hallucination a lot more than in the past, right? So there. So now, Kavita, that gets us into the question of data privacy, and also this area that is getting tiptoed is the ethics, ethical implementation of AI, right? So this is the last segment I would like to just focus some discussion on. So, and there are company, I mean, the organizations, whether it's the European Union or it's CCPA, GDPR, so there are definitely data privacy regulations that are there. And then in your specific example that you gave, the local organization, the newspaper, wanting to protect some, some news articles or whatever. So how do you bring data privacy? Let's talk about data privacy first, right? So data privacy into the mix in implementing AI driven personalized marketing.
Uh, I think data privacy is huge, right? That's why we had GDPR was like the marquee regulation. Then we had CCPA, right? And throughout, I think the last 4 or 5 years, we've had controls in some of these startups to even have compliance requirements to adhere to data privacy regulations and all, right? That is table stakes. Um, but do you know that 57% of the US consumers do not trust brands that we, despite of all the data privacy efforts, we still feel there's a little bit of mistrust or distrust in terms of how our companies using our data. And we were having that conversation earlier, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to be kind of, always monitored in this digital world, right? And Google's now backtracking, like I said, on the cookie policies. So as a consumer, I think we have to demand better practices around data privacy of all of these organizations. So, a very small example, as the local publisher kind of almost forced a tech startup like ours to say that, hey, show us your AI privacy guidelines or policy guidelines. And then overnight, we kind of, and I have this on the Marketing Maven AI policy page, but we put a policy together. We basically said, okay, how we have to be very transparent of how we are collecting the data, what data are we collecting as an organization, what are we allowed to collect, and then how are we using that data. And if you notice, most of the companies, yes, these policies may be buried deep, but most of these companies, I think, first and foremost, should have a data privacy policy when you're doing business with consumers. This is how we are consuming with the data. This is what we need to or intend to do with the data, and here's how you can request your data back. For businesses, I would say if you're relying on first party data that the users willingly give you, then you have a little bit more leverage on terms of how you use it, but always ask for that permission. Slack recently got into trouble a couple months ago for just using the data privacy and reading in between the lines of their data privacy policy and rolling out AI features. So I think, hardening your data privacy framework and your compliance and legal kind of, policy, that is table stakes for AI.
Like,
I don't.
actually, just today I read an article that I don't remember the company name, but they transferred an European, I think, is delivery drivers information to the US. So European Union has basically has fined this company about I think $100 million or whatever, um, for for transferring this data. So I think the fines are pretty huge,
Yes.
but the challenge is that it's after the fact, right? So the quote unquote the damage is already done, the privacy is invaded, and then data has been done. So, but after the fact, maybe that will be an inhibitor. But what you're advocating is first thing is, hey, voluntarily, make sure the businesses, the privacy policies have to be transparent and have to be communicated, and and then the customers. I mean, again, we talked about there are not many tools for them, but whatever that are there, just a demand for the information.
Absolutely, right? I think there has to be an option to delete your account and the data that is associated with an account. I think for any kind of social media profile that you go, there has to be that, in plain sight option. So
Yeah,
those are the things that I think consumers can start demanding for when you're using any app, that your app, Apple enforces that from app developers, but on the web, I don't think there is any kind of enforcement of that. There are laws to enforce that, so you can, but Instagram or Facebook, I do know that you have the delete account with the data front and center. It has to be there. So those are kind of the transparency, I would say, for data privacy, to make it, to reestablish this trust between the brand and the consumer.
yeah,
Again,
got it.
consumers brand is not going to take my data for granted. if they're doing all within their kind of purview to protect my data, I am more willing to do business over and over again with that brand.
Correct, correct. I think definitely for local brands that makes a lot more sense as well. So now let's get into the ethical implementation of AI, and then the implications for personalized marketing in that space, right? So what are the concerns that you are noticing with respect to ethics and personalized marketing?
Uh, I think ethics, in the sense, I'll frame it in the lens of bias. And you yourself kind of mentioned, when you're on a platform and you're getting the same videos again and again, you as a human, you are overriding the bias that you have to kind of get a different feed of
Hmm.
videos. And AI and all the we live in a very biased world, and generative AI just works on existing data. So, and it generates new data based on whatever existing data it's seen, correct? So it's the
Correct.
human's responsibility to expand that lens or open that view for AI. And I think bias is top of mind, right? Because it's almost there's the sentiment that after all these years, nothing's changed because everything is working off the same biases that we as humans have, put in these systems in place.
Correct.
Um, and as we all know, that businesses and brands continuously evolve. Like, if you're catering to one consumer segment, it's only short lived. You have to cater to a wide audience and a wide segment, and have almost like this global worldview. So then the challenge lies is, how will you have almost like a fair and transparent and ethical evaluation of your systems, and you're feeding in different types of data and not
Hmm.
disregarding that as an anomaly, correct? Because AI systems or machine learning systems, if it sees something that it hasn't seen before,
Yeah,
there's a tendency to treat that as an anomaly, but it and treat it as a false negative. But it could be a valid use case. So having it doesn't mean that you need an ethics advisor, but it's just sometimes it's human common sense. Like you said, like, okay, I'm just getting the same videos. What am I missing? What information am I missing, or what am I not listening? Am I just being fed one worldview? How
hmm,
to expand to other things? And that's where I do think consumers need to demand from these systems is like, okay, show us your data sets, show us your evaluations. So when we are experimenting with some of these companies, we try to have a broader evaluations data set.
yeah,
And these evaluation data sets is we what we call is sources from the human researchers. So it's like, okay, give us, so it depends on who's giving us these data sets for evaluations,
I see.
right? And then we measure in terms of bias score, like, are we still better or worse from where we started out with? How diverse is our data set, right? Does it cover all aspects of what we're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think there seems to be a very fine line with respect to, because as at the beginning I said, yeah, the business, the primary motive is to maximize the profits, right? So again, right, maximize the profits within the confines of an ethical way of doing a business, right? So it has to be the fundamental value. And if a business is purposefully not looking at that one, so there's not much a regulator at some point hopefully will come in and rein in that kind of organization, right? But so far we are still talking about a voluntary implementation of ethics in a business, as opposed to a regulated way of doing, implementing AI. Hey, these are the guidelines, these are the boundaries, kinds of things. Um, is that what you're seeing, or you're seeing something different?
No, that is true, right? Because like for systems and controls, we have a checklist of things for compliance, right? There is already SOC compliance.
Yeah.
We don't have the same set of controls for an AI systems. There are multiple papers and frameworks that the National Institute of Standards is putting out together,
Okay.
but uh, there's still a lot of AI regulation in the lab, is what I call, where how do you put an ethics regulation in place? I think that's the challenge that, people much more smarter and advanced in AI ethics probably will tell you is, how do you have a hardened AI ethics policy that is controlled by the system and not by the humans? So then right now that's why you're seeing a set of quasi regulations where the European Union put out their AI Regulation Act. The White House tried to put out their own act, right? California is trying its own regulations, so you're seeing a patchwork of regulations,
Yeah,
um, mostly trying to put guardrails and frameworks in place, right?
yeah.
Because yes, the technology is great, it's super powerful. It can boost productivity and it can probably help businesses and consumers both, right? But how do you prevent it from inflicting harm and, like, biases that have already existed up until this point?
Correct, correct. I mean, I think 100% right. Debiasing the data, it's yeah. So there are efforts happening in that one, but again, right? As human beings, we are biased, and the data that is there is biased. So debiasing, at least my personal opinion, is not a norm. I mean, it's not a regular way of doing business, so there have to be some specific things
Correct.
have to put in place on that one. So Kavita, the as we start wrapping up, couple of things I just want to mention. One is that definitely personalized marketing, it's almost like the cat is out of the box. Like this, it's the train has left the station. It's not like, hey, you can't do it. There are benefits for the businesses doing business this way, and then definitely as a consumer, I could see a benefit of me, that shortens the smart search and all that stuff. So the way that the businesses tell me what I should watch, what I should buy, so I could see it. But there is always that risk of overdoing these things, and then we notice that already. So and then AI is definitely making it happen faster. And then, as the examples that you mentioned, the marketing map and using the custom GPT way of doing businesses, it shortens the time to implement a personalized marketing, and at a much lower cost. And so those things are happening, regularly. So I think we should expect that those kinds of things to be accelerated. So the last question to you, and then also an opportunity for you to summarize, is what are the other risks that we may not have discussed, and what are the roadblocks that you see that are happening in this space?
Great question. I think that's a great summary, right? So I think personalized marketing, like you said, it's here to stay. Completely agree, right? What you're seeing is short form video, and summary is like emails also making a comeback. And there are two reasons for email making a comeback: is people are spending time reading again long form articles. Maybe because if it's a chat GPT or Claude sending you or giving you more responses, or
Yeah.
long LinkedIn posts, but definitely reading is making a comeback. So if you have a good strategy for personalized email marketing, that could be a way of reaching out to more consumers. um,
Interesting.
Second, on the technology, you're right. I think these technologies, these tools, there are bets have already been placed. I think now the challenge lies is how to integrate that into your existing or newer workflows, right? Like, what dynamics are going to shift in every industry and every job function, and you're starting to see some of that already play out, in terms of, if I needed to hire 10 different marketers for if each channel that I'm managing,
Yeah.
maybe I don't need 10 different marketers. I have a fewer set of people to manage omni-channel marketing with the use of AI. Correct. That is what, in summary, these tools will enable us to do. And lastly, I feel in the third question of not just ethics and bias and privacy, but overall, I think I don't think we can rely on anybody else to do it, but businesses have to train their existing workforce to use these tools.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, here's a budget to play with this. See what are some of these use cases, right, that you can come up with. And I always give the example of the tech world known for doing hackathons. There is no reason why some of these smaller to medium businesses can reserve time to experiment with some of these tools if they have it already, and to see how far you can go and what are the improvements you can make to retrain your workforce and reskill your workforce. Almost, it's almost like people have to learn to work with AI, just like how you had to learn to work with Excel or computers, or before typewriters.
Yeah,
So
excellent. Yeah, I mean that is fantastic summary, Kavita. So in terms of how, so you mentioned that we have to adapt ourselves to use this technology as opposed to trying to fight it. So before we wrap up, so Kavita, anything that we have not talked, anything else to summarize to conclude today's discussion?
I think this was great. It's great to kind of see some of these positive reviews coming out in the news also. Um, are we far from AI somewhere? No, AI is here to stay. I think the faster we embrace it, or the sooner we embrace it logically and ethically, I think, we will be better as humans in the future, is what my kind of thing would be.
Great, great. So people who fought the internet in 2000s kind of thing, we know where they are now. So there's no, yeah. So you just like embrace it and then just guide it in the right way to implement it. So that's great. Kavita, thank you very much. It's a fantastic discussion, and so we'll talk to you later.